This is a public meeting of the Historical Commission at scheduled for 11 a.m. on Friday, the 30th of June. If you are participating, you are subject to being recorded. The recording has been going on, and be aware of that.
Well, it's good to see you all.
Good to
Okay,
see you.
it's
Happy summer.
11:17.
Yeah,
We'll start the meeting with Dan. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yeah, agreed. It's good to be catching up and hopefully now kicking off and having our effort move forward for Bullard House. I will be as efficient as I can because unfortunately at about 2 minutes to 12, I'm going to need to peel off because
Okay.
of another meeting. But if we don't get through everything, then we'll find a time and we'll pick up where we left off. I have 5 items that I want us to cover today. And June, by the way, when I was searching for your email that had the Zoom link, I saw that I missed an email from you yesterday, but I was on the road most of the day and I just never saw it. So we are covering one of those items that was in your note to me, but anyways, I just didn't want you to think I was ignoring it. So here are the 5 things that I want us to cover if we possibly can. One, I want to give you a brief update. As you all know, and many thanks to you, Barry, because you helped them get into the building. We arranged for our structural engineer, Tom Lamb, and 2 contractors that we've worked with previously to come and visit the building and look in the basement and help us work through our pathway to fixing the foundation and stabilizing the building. So I want to talk about that meeting, findings, and next steps. I want to talk briefly about the Title V report that you all got. June, thank you for organizing that effort and getting that final report to us. So I just want to briefly touch upon that, touch upon the Ross survey and a couple of things that we've learned and how we're going to be using that moving forward. Then I want to revisit our concept for the site layout today. And then lastly, just touch upon timeline. And Janet, this comes back to you. Thank you very much for sending that in an email a few days ago. So, in our overall next steps. Sound good? Hopefully that's not too much to cover in 50 minutes or so, but well, a little bit less than that. So I'm going to jump right in on the Tom and Liz site visit that took place at the building. We had, if you remember a while ago, probably spoken with Tom and you all that Tom and I had worked on an old church in Boxborough. And we had a site contractor who came in and did some very creative things where we had to shore up an existing foundation and work from the inside of a building. And this was a contractor that we had worked with that was willing to be creative and not just do the easier approach, which we've talked about with Bullard. It has to be really easy to come and just lift up the whole house, take out what we need to take out down below and rebuild it. But for a whole host of reasons, we'd rather not do that. So that's why we've been talking about a bit of a hybrid approach. So the summary that came out of that discussion on site with the structural engineer and these contractors is that our hybrid solution of reinforcing the existing foundation walls in Bullard House from the inside, as Tom had proposed, I think is option B or 2 on his letter, still makes good sense. And we feel as though doing that approach on the back side, so the higher hillside of the building, and the sides of Bullard House makes a lot of sense. And then they have all proposed that on the front wall, so the wall along Woodward Ave, that wall be repointed and remain as is, but we not try to pour concrete up against it. So it's a hybrid to the hybrid approach where 3 sides of the building are going to be, fairly significantly worked on from the inside, and the front wall gets the pointing, and we still allow it to be a bit more permeable than the other 3 walls. To clarify, we are not proposing to jack up the entire house, which I think alleviates some of the agita regarding the fireplace, disruption to work already put in place, and all the complications and costs associated with doing that. So I feel like this is a good solution and helps us to now have a pathway forward, unless there are concerns that the group has. But I want to go through, before I ask that question formally, go through a couple of more pieces of the puzzle. No matter what, in order to do the work within the basement, we're going to need to remove mechanical equipment that's down there. Some of that mechanical equipment, I understand from Liz from Greenleaf Construction looking at the building, may be fairly new. I don't remember off the top of my head the date of any of it. But when we're proposing first phase of work to stabilize the foundation and the underpinnings of the building, we may want to work a mechanical solution in at the same time. So the question is, if we're going to ultimately be opening up Bullard House to public use, whatever that looks like, do we want to consider abandoning the type of heating system that was in the building and going to something like a heat pump system that would provide heating and cooling and could be using electricity instead of a fossil fuel? Not that there isn't fossil fuel going into generating the electricity. And I don't know whether there's been any talk at any point in time of Old Town Hall going solar or trying to do something around town. But if we need to pull the equipment out of the way in order to do the work that we're doing, do we necessarily want to put equipment back down into that basement that is the existing equipment, or do we want to think a little bit further down the road? So that's one of the pieces of the puzzle that we need to work out. And then another piece of the puzzle that we need to work out is that at present, the rear portion of the building is sitting on wood piers on top of helical piles, and it doesn't have a foundation the way that the main house does, if you will. So another piece of the puzzle is figuring out whether we leave that existing condition as is, and if so, what does that mean to how we're accessing the building and how we're getting, playing around with grade? Or do we also do something to create a longer term solution for that back portion or a portion of the back portion? So that's item number 2 piece of the puzzle. And then the last one, relative to doing work on the foundation, is that I still feel very strongly, as does Tom Lamb, that whatever approaches we're taking all around the building relative to stabilizing and foundation work, this idea that while we're out there and we're doing site work and we're doing work, that we should, where we can, put some additional foundation drainage in to better serve and channel water away from the building. And given where there's ledge and where there's not ledge, and where it's easy to dig and where it's not easy to dig, that I'm imagining might end up being some sort of a hybrid solution as well. But we'd like to improve the quality of drainage around the building and minimize how much water we actually let come into the building, or channel through, to the foundation, etc. Is that all making sense so far? I'm talking rather quickly, but I was trying to chunk it down in a real simple way.
Yes.
So far, so good.
Okay, so go ahead, Derek.
The piece that I would comment on is that the ends of the building, you can play with concrete. Most of the back side of the cellar, the deep cellar, is either one side of it's all ledge.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we need to look carefully at it in situ in order to determine just what we want to do across the back of the deep cellar,
Yep.
which is only under the front.
Yep. And Barry, to that point, one of the things that Tom was talking about was actually when doing concrete work in the back, pinning it to the ledge and using the ledge to our advantage as he's stabilizing the back of the building. So I think they're going to be I think there's going to be a series of details of things that are happening in different locations. I don't think it's going to be a uniform treatment all the way around. But we do have, and it was generated just at the very end of May or at the beginning of June, because I knew that we were all going to be meeting. We do have a phase 2, if you will, agreement from Tom Lamb to get started on these details, because we need to formalize what's being done where so that we can get some numbers on it. So the scope of work that we have from Tom, and I can send this after the meeting because now it'll have some context, but if I pull it up, he has a total work scope of $6,000, and he's got a bullet list of all the different things that he's doing here. And rather than going through it item by item right now in time, June, I'll send it to you and you all can then review it and share it amongst yourselves. It makes perfect sense to me. And June, you just have to remind me, were we having Tom contract through us or with you folks directly? I think we allocated money in one bucket, but if there's a way that Tom is billing you folks directly, it saves you a little bit of money. So
we can be billed directly from him.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So I'll pass along his scope of work, and my recommendation to the group, and you all can vote on it, outside of our discussion today, is that you approve that scope of work and we get him going. And then, he'll coordinate when he wants to come out, when he wants to be, look at anything, but he's going to be generating the information we need to go out to bid for the foundation work. And sorry, I bent my wrist the wrong way and Siri decided she was part of our meeting.
Are we saying that Tom's prep for the actual foundation work is what we're saying is 6,000? Where does that fit in?
It's essentially, Janet, it's Tom putting together a plan and details for the structural work that needs to be done downstairs.
Okay.
And with any project like this, he's going to give the framework of what he wants done when we're actually ready to do the construction. I'm sure there's going to be some modifications, some sketches, some other things that'll happen, but you'll see he has, and I'm looking at it right now, it's dated May 24th, 23, and it's a fairly extensive scope that lists out everything that he's going to do. So that was my update on the Tom Liz contractor visit. As soon as we have Tom's details, then we will see if Greenleaf Construction and this contractor, I'm going to forget the person's name.
Yeah.
Jeff, was that it?
That could be.
Okay. We're going to see if they want to be, involved in this, or we want to talk to a couple of other contractors and, what the scope of work is going to be and what else we want to combine it with, which, we'll be talking about a little bit more. So that's item number 1 update. I think we've got a pathway and we're ready to move forward. And it's, before engaging Tom, it's had the benefit now of some on-site discussion with people that could do work like this to make sure that it felt realistic and that it's the right approach. Number 2 was Title V. I can't tell you how flabbergasted I was that you had a system in that building that actually met and got a sign off on Title V. Congratulations to everyone. Yes, June.
Just a little add-on. The Bill Brookings, who is our Neshoba Board of Health person, has requested a water sample, a water test from the adjoining 3 Linden Street. And that I've done all I can to make that happen. So I'll recheck
Okay.
But that's
And
just an addition.
is that because he has a concern of a well proximity to your leaching?
That's
Well,
correct.
our septic is near their well. Isn't that
Okay.
right,
But
Barry?
so is their septic.
That's correct. Their septic is right next to ours, so
Their
therefore,
septic and your septic are like one septic field.
yeah, and Bill is very aware of that. He was in office when that whole thing was put in. So he
Okay.
knows that, but the well at the town hall is just far enough away so it doesn't get into this particular survey. And the well at 3 Linden is just close enough so it does. So that's why
Okay.
he's requesting it.
Okay, makes perfect sense. I think he'll be part of an ongoing conversation as well. When I saw the Title V report and read through, one of the things I was interested in, besides that it's a functional working system, is what kind of capacity do we have? And my intention was, if that system is functional and there's nothing wrong with it, then, of course, we would continue to use it as we're marching forward and, creating uses that are going to be happening at Bullard House. So I then reached back to Dan Wolf in June. I think you might have been on this correspondence where I said, okay, so I'm reading 440 gallons per day. What does that mean in terms of capacity for how we intend to use the building? And his answer came back saying, well, that's a brilliant question. And there's not a black and white answer, because it's not a house and there's nothing in Title V that gives you capacity for a quote unquote house museum, which is what we're trying to do. And I use the word house museum because that's a term that Tom Lamb used, because we are never going to design the structure in that building to be the loading that you would for a regular museum or, a gathering hall or what have you.
Yeah.
Nor do I think that at any point in time we're gonna have 100 people walking through that building. So what we need to do is come up with the creative argument of what our use and capacity is, and always have it through Title V fit within that 440 gallons per day that you've got. And Dan Wolf said that could be I'd have to go back to his email, June. I don't know if you remember it. One of them was a hall, something like a gathering hall, and it's based on how many seats, and then there's if you had 15 seats, so many gallons, you're well under our capacity. But there was something else that we wouldn't want to do because it would come out to 500 gallons and then we'd be over our capacity. So I think we just want, and it's the big we, the royal we, just want to come up with a plan that says, no, we aren't going to have more than this many people in the building at any one time, and it works with our system, and we just need to document that. So there's a little bit of legwork for the committee to go back to, and that was the name he mentioned, Bill Billings, or it was one of those.
Bill
Bill
Brookins.
Brookings, yeah.
Bill Brookings, yeah. I can revisit when I send you the copy of Tom Lamb's scope, I'll refresh you and send you a copy of Dan Wolf's memo that suggested what we do next.
Okay. I
Okay.
think
The,
I have them, but that would be good to do.
When that system was put in, it was put in for a residential use on the building. And
That's what I'm assuming, yeah.
And it included a restriction that it could not have a washing machine.
Okay,
And they seem to think that the gallon rating would work for a family as long as they didn't try to have laundry being done there too. So
Yeah.
that was the original setup with the system. When we bought it for the town for the museum business, the chairman of the Board of Health at the time says, "Oh, that's a great relief because that means it'll never use the kind of water it would as a resident."
good. And I just pulled up Dan's note. He said, and he did mention, discussing it with Bill Brookings, come up with a reasonable similar use, perhaps a function hall at 15 gallons per day per seat. country club with snack bar or lunchroom at 10 gallons per seat, or even dry storage space at 15 gallons per day per person, whatever the options, blah, blah, blah. And then, I think that you can come up with something that's reasonable. And
Yep.
If you use the country club snack bar thing, 15 seats would be 150 gallons per day per seat. And that's way less than the 440. So you could, double that or
For capacity, yeah.
right. And you'd be fine. And let's face it, if there's something going on there, you're probably not having the same people be there for any significant length of time, right? So I think you're going to come up with something. I'm not overly concerned about it, but we should get clarity on this. And the big check mark that we want is our system is working and our 440 gallons per day is adequate for the intended use, and we're not looking for any special waiver or sign off on that.
Right.
So moving on, that was item number 2. Ross survey. I don't know if anyone's had a chance, Dan sent around, or maybe he just sent it to me. I got a CAD file and a PDF, but he did do what we asked him to do. We now have the limits of the driveway that go up to the old town hall. We have better grade information. We have some utility poles. We have some edges of streets. It's a more complete survey than what we had before. And I have started to look at now our original plan for the building and how we access, which brings us to really item 4 in the agenda is, what makes sense for a path moving forward. So Barry, do I have ability to share?
You do.
I think I do, right? Okay. I am going to do this and you're going to all tell me if I've succeeded and you actually see my screen.
You succeeded.
Okay, fantastic. So you should be looking at a very colorful diagram that has my meeting items on the left, and you'll see Bullard House. I'm zooming into it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So just to give a couple of bearings here, if you see the very light blue or cyan area with the 2 dashed lines, that is actually your leach field, because now I know exactly where it is. And it is based on the dimensions that I got from Dan Wolf there. Behind it in blue, at an angle, is your existing tank for the septic system. So those are items that we're hoping not to move and that are relatively fixed. We know that there's a telephone pole. We always knew that. It's a catenary wire or support wire that goes back towards Bullard House from that pole. But frankly, it's off your property because the blue line that's dashed on the plan is in fact the property boundary. Can you all see that? Okay. And if I zoom out, you'll see I put a pale color on Old Town Hall and the Old Town Hall driveway just to give some bearings. In yellow at the bottom of the screen are 2 existing crosswalks that I didn't have previously before, and now we understand where they are. Not that we can't move them or consider repositioning them. We had on a previous sketch, I'll pull that up, looked at area B as a potential parking area, and I know that there were some concerns about backing out onto Central Street. And that concern is valid, and at the same time, I knew that the frequency of use was not a daily occurrence. I also knew that it was no worse off, in fact, maybe a little bit better than your neighbor, and then backing out of their driveway. Right? They do the same thing immediately next door. But as I was considering, and thinking about this a little bit further and thinking about accessibility, that I've never liked the idea of the side door of Bullard House being the accessible entrance, because the only way to get to it is with a lot of ramping, because the sloped driveway to Old Town Hall is not in fact accessible. So to get to that doorway, I either have to park up at the top at Old Town Hall and then have this meandering path coming down, or I need to figure out a way from Woodward area to come up to it. And even if we use that as the accessible entrance, I certainly didn't like having a car parked directly outside the door, because then that doesn't make it a welcoming entrance, which is one of the reasons why I had proposed that we take that section in the back of the building and use that as visitor's entrance and the accessible entrance, and then you meander through the house with that. And I could pull up that building concept, but I'm going to be efficient with time. As I've been continuing to think about this, I think there are two possible new solutions for accessibility. One thought is to consider that our accessible parking actually happens where all the nose-in spaces are over by the church, because that to me feels like it's a public parking space and it's relatively level. And we could create a striped accessible parking space in reasonable proximity to Bullard House. Does that make sense to people?
I understand it.
Okay. It also makes sense to me when I'm looking at existing photographs that there's a small portion of sidewalk presently right out in front of Old Town Hall. I'm going to make my arrow a different color. And there's a small portion of sidewalk that exists over by our telephone pole. Why wouldn't over time we promote with the town a continuation of a sidewalk consistently across Old Town Hall, crossing the driveway that goes up, that goes out in front of Bullard House? It could even, ideally be done with brick or a paver that could be really beautiful and appropriate to the character of the downtown. And if you had that sidewalk, we could do a little bit of grading change in the front of Bullard House. It could even be a really low, elegant stone wall. And from the point around where I have my big number 1, we could create an accessible pathway that I'm showing in purple that goes along the lawn in front of Bullard House and accesses that door that faces Woodward and Central Street, but that goes into that back kitchen area. So that's a potential pathway. The only thing I don't like about it, I love the fact that I think it can be done from a grading perspective really easily, that we could use it to our advantage, because as we're doing some digging work there and the drainage, it'd be easy to create. I would be sad to lose the little cherry tree that's out front.
Yeah.
Wow.
So is it?
So let me understand this correctly. Do you mind if I ask a question here?
Yeah.
So accessible parking would be crossing the street.
Correct.
Okay. And getting onto the sidewalk.
That's
and
right.
from that point on. So that's nice in the summertime, but what in the wintertime? That would be a little bit more difficult.
It would. I'm assuming where I just stuck the yellow, that there would be a striped crossing that goes from that accessible parking area across the street. Woodward has far less traffic, obviously, than Central. So I'm assuming that portion of the traveling, in wintertime, it's all plowed, right? Your parking spaces would be plowed, your crosswalk would be plowed, and that the sidewalk would be maintained. It would not get you immediately up against the building. And I will hit upon that, because I still think that the idea of where I was placing in this concept a zone where somebody could park, I still think makes sense as a service location. And we may do that as like an outdoor patio that you could drive a car on. And I guess if it was really bad weather, somebody could get closer, I would angle it so we avoid the telephone pole and the septic system the best we can. But, that could still happen over in this area. And I'll fill that with a bright pink. That could still happen there. And then if you got out of a vehicle, you'd come up the sidewalk and then get into a path. But that path that I'm talking about right now, and I want to just finish the thought about the cherry tree. I'm showing it going across the cherry tree because it was a straight line and I was doing a diagram. It might be able to go around that tree and actually be a really lovely pathway and not have to lose the tree. So that was approach number one for accessibility that brings you in the front of the building as opposed to the back of the building, but brings you into that same area. And then option two is, you know, that original theme that we had. You still create a sidewalk that I have rendered in orange, and pathway number two brings you to the back side of the building. And as I said before, you know, there can still be a pathway around the other side of the building that gets to that door. So people that are parking that don't need the accessibility still could walk up part of the driveway to Old Town Hall and cut across to there. It's just not the accessible route. So I'm only talking about the accessible route. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to shut up for a moment and ask for thoughts on 1 versus 2, or a thought that, you know, keep on thinking about other options. But both of these to me still make some sense. And I was beginning to feel rather excited about option 1 because I liked the fact that people were staying around the front of the building, because we had 1 or 2 of you may have made a comment that, you know, while you understand, you know, the rear entry, it'd be nice if it wasn't in the rear.
You haven't shoveled snow in the back of that parkway.
What about our other consideration about the ramping down from the accessible parking about up top?
Yeah. I'm not opposed to looking at that. If we did that, then having that rear entrance around number 2 certainly makes sense. You know, my concern there is that that parking area probably needs to get expanded a little bit more and formalized in terms of how spaces are designated.
That's right.
And then you're absolutely combining an Old Town Hall feature with Bullard House. I'm not opposed to it. I was never opposed to it. We designed it originally. But I also liked the idea of coming up with something independent.
There's been some movement by the select board to tentatively appropriate ARPA funds to finish the parking area up top.
Okay.
But that doesn't include, you know, the ramping. The town administrator has asked me just this past week to come up with a cost estimate for the ramping. And because I can't do that the next day, but I did talk to Pat Smith and Evie, and Pat Smith gave me the original cost summary that Austin generated in 2015. And that would have to be doubled, maybe tripled. I don't know. But back then it was about $34,000. And Pat did also say that there was some change in materials and that affected cost. But the summary she gave me was for the ramp to be concrete, not wooden.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
okay.
You know, that's a big, complex thing to manage and have happen, but I just wanted to fill everybody in on what's been told to me. Yeah.
I think it comes down to you all, you know, what's the approach that you feel like you can stand behind and that makes sense to you?
Well, my immediate reaction is is to prefer the use of the sidewalks and the crosswalks and the accessible parking across the street, rather than complicated ramping down from the above area. But,
Mhm.
you know, that's just my immediate thought. I guess I'd have to think about it.
June,
Yeah.
the other thing I would add to that is an asset, I think, is we had talked about the advantages of coming in the back, whether we come from the front side of that back addition, which I kind of like, which was number one, or coming from the back, because it's a good welcoming area and we can use that in a sort of utilitarian way.
That's
Mhm.
right.
But that
Yeah.
would go along with the number one here.
Right, and that was, this diagram, Janet, right?
Right.
That whole thing was a welcoming foyer. So, all we're talking about is, in option one, we could potentially use this door, still come into the same area. We might change that farm table island a little bit. I had even come up with the thought that you could come to that door and without doing a lot of regrading from that door, we could create a farmer's porch that comes around the building like this, that keeps you level, right?
Mhm.
So you can still come into the back of the building and there's a little bit of an experience that's, floating above the ground. And that could be fun too. It's a variation of the theme. But
I like the idea of having a entry in the back as well. I like the idea of having both of them, but the only one
both
that
of them,
would have to be accessible would be the one where you come in the front.
right?
I
Yeah.
mean-
Well, the reality is that at present, right now, when you look at photographs at the back of the building, already you grade up along the back side to get to that door that's there, right?
Yes.
So it's still a usable door. And if you had that pathway, I'll change that pathway color for a second so we can talk about it. Just make it green for the moment. If you had that pathway in green, it's still useful for service in the building, getting things in and out. It's, and as I said, I still think that there could be a plaza or some space here that's usable for outdoors, even from a programming perspective. You have some event or some fair or some gathering, that's out in that space, or a vehicle could back into it to service the building or drop something off because there's an event. And although my purple pathway would go to that front door, I also think that right here in this corner, where I just drew the blue circle, we could have steps that go up to that door, which, if you're not needing the accessibility, are still a valid way to enter a building. So I think there's a couple of approaches, but I really think that this group needs to land on what the preferred is so that we can actually design it and then work with Ross to make sure that the grades are all working. I prefer on a building like this, if it's at all possible, I prefer an accessible pathway that is not technically a ramp, meaning it can have a slope, but it's within the allowable slope guideline, that I don't have to have handrails on both sides, fall protection, and a number of other things that you have to build in when you build, quote unquote, a ramp, because I think it's more sensitive to the historic preservation of the building. If we needed to create a walkway in the front and build a ramp, somewhere in this back area, I could embrace a ramp back there far better because it's on the backside and not part of the image that I'm trying to preserve, historically on the front. I can embrace a ramp, with rails more so back there. It's not my preferred approach, but I can embrace it more. So just being mindful of time, does this give you all enough to talk through as a group, try to reach a decision of, pathway 1, pathway 2, or potentially pathway 3 being the one coming from Old Town Hall? It doesn't mean we can't generate design for more than one of those. I'm just trying to be as efficient as possible.
I think it gives us plenty to talk about.
Okay.
I will say that the the end of the church driveway, roughly below the first D in Wooded, is a better place to actually park on a level and cross and go over to a sidewalk than is up the street. However, it's not public property. So therefore, we need to use we need to have the paper thing this, but in fact, practically, they'd be actually closer to the place and be on a level space to
Correct.
get out of the vehicle if they
Yeah.
parked in the other place. But in either case, we're talking about parking across the street, so.
Right.
I'd like to just ask another question about this. Like, let's assume that we go with option 2. How far, and someone is walking across there with a walker or a cane or something, or even a wheelchair. How long a trip is that? To get to that point.
It's a good question, Lucy. I can try to tell you that. It's not that big of a house. So, I mean, it looks like a long path, but it's, it's not that long.
Probably 200 feet. Anyway.
Yeah, my issue is what scale did Dan give this to me in? That's.
I guess in my mind, I'm thinking of both 1 and 2 as being viable and what's the word I want? And created.
Yeah, Barry, do you remember the dimension of Bullard House across its front facade, just the main house?
I want to say there's a figure like 53 feet, but that's just in my head.
Okay, tools, measure, set scale.
May not be right.
Does
Then maybe
40,
that's
so like 42 feet sound about right?
Yeah, it could be.
Okay, Lucy, this is a very rough estimate in response to your, but if this, it says it's at scale 1 to 10. It looks to me like the long stretch of the green here is 60 feet. And then tools, measure length, and then across the back, another 30 feet. So call it 100 feet.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Okay. So it's not that bad.
No.
So I apologize. I'm gonna have to jump because I committed. Unfortunately, it's a bunch of 4th of July turns into an artificial deadline. I wasn't expecting it, but it does. So I've got a bunch of people that are trying to get answers today about things. If you all want to continue talking, June, I'll as I'm starting my next meeting, I'm going to send you a PDF of the sheet we're looking at right now.
Okay.
And the Tom Lamb proposal. I'll send it to you in an email so you can open it up with the group. And then if we can resume this discussion. I have one more item, and maybe you can give me your response in a week or so.
Okay.
I don't know what everyone's 4th schedule is like, but my next Thursday at the moment has some time if you're all available.
So that would be the
6th.
The 6th. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I apologize for jumping off quickly, but June, I'll send these to you in just the next 2 minutes.
And we can confirm a time on July 6th or not. and let
Okay.
you know. Yes.
Great.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, thanks. You bet.
And
Yeah.
I'm just gonna run and get my calendar. I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
I have in my head that there's something the 6th, but I don't know what it is.
It's Thursday, the 6th. Do you want to go over these 5 items? Or do you want to just think about everything after I send you the documents?
Are we looking at our calendars or no? I don't want to force that issue unless I had to leave to get mine. 6 for me is okay until a 4 o'clock dentist appointment. So it'd be like 3:30, all the way through till 3:30.
Do you think, Barry, that whatever might be on the 6th for you is like a couple of hours or,
I have no idea.
yeah,
I don't know why that why that date is in my head at all.
okay, what about everybody else?
Good for the 6th.
Good for the 6th. And Lucy,
Yeah,
it seems to be okay for you, Lucy?
yes, it is.
Okay. Well, until tentatively, we'll wait to see if Barry can nail down whatever commitment he might have on the 6th. Do you want to set a time?
11 o'clock's good for me. 10 o'clock.
Find
whatever.
out from Dan too, because he probably has a.
Mhm.
He
Okay,
tends
so-
to
I was
go-
surprised he didn't say anything about time, so.
Yeah, well, he was up against it, so,
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
I mean, usually he has a pretty tight calendar, so I
yeah.
would have figured, when he said he had time on that day, he didn't say morning, afternoon, didn't say anything about when.
Well, I will say that he, in the past, he's proposed 11 or 1.
Yeah.
So I think 11 would be safe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And then, you know, I could just get back to him with that, and I'll just tell him that we have, you know, we'll do our best. And that, Barry, you need to check.
yeah, I don't know what,
Well, it'll come to you. It'll come to you. Let me know.
okay.
Uh,
We'll talk about the 6th at 11.
Do you want to talk about these 5 or 4 items that he was able to cover now? Or do you want to look at the documents and think about it and we can get together?
sometimes it's nice to go over there and stand across the street. I've done that,
You want to have a site visit?
or individually even. You know.
I was thinking the same thing, that I needed to go
Yeah.
stand there and view it.
I don't know that we need
Do
to do
better
it,
in person than on a paper diagram.
and I
Okay,
don't know that we need to have a meeting to do it either. We can just do it on our own and then be ready to share. Because we have
Okay.
another meeting, coming up in a week, don't we? I mean,
Yes,
it's
we do.
our regular one, so maybe by then.
well, that's something we need to talk about.
The 14th, we would have a regular meeting.
Right.
We should probably talk about it before then, though. While it's
I
still
know,
fresh
if he's going to meet with us on the 6th,
in my mind. I wouldn't mind having a site meeting.
the site visit,
I wouldn't mind having that, just so that we can all talk about it at the same time, if, you know, and if
There.
everyone can't make it, that would be okay.
You mean before the 6th?
Yeah,
Lucy,
yeah.
before the 6th, okay.
yeah, I'm not sure I can schedule that actually, because the 3rd and the 4th are holidays at the,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Well, you know,
Friday.
one thing that is legal for us to do is to talk to people. So this
That's
might be
correct.
one of those times where I call Lucy and I talk about it and you call, you know, just to kind of get a couple of other opinions maybe. And then we can not have to schedule a meeting, but you just
Or
have to.
we
know
could,
your
or we
calendar
could
too.
just help, or we
We
could just hold an illegal meeting.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, there
Mary.
is such a thing as a, what do you call
An
it?
Emergency.
meeting?
An emergency meeting.
And I think that under the circumstances, and the reason that we might have difficulty with it is because of the constrictions of the open meeting law in regard to time and counting of days. I don't know whether Monday counts or not. Monday might count.
Well, the town offices are closed. I mean, well, I'm not sure the building is closed, but it's considered a time when whoever works there is not expected to be there.
June, go on to my town government and try to schedule a meeting there. And if it'll
Okay.
take it, do it. If it won't
Okay.
take it, then we'll have it then anyway. I mean, we can have it anyway and
Take
No,
the
we can
flack
just
for it.
plan to meet there, like, just, oh, look, we're all here now. Why don't we talk?
that's
So
right.
this would be Monday you're thinking about?
And of course, we'll be standing right out in front where
Yeah.
everybody can see us. No
Okay,
secrets about this.
so I will try to schedule an emergency meeting for Monday when? What time?
Oh, let me look at my calendar again. Let's see if I'm even around. Um,
And this would be a site visit.
Now, Monday, I probably could, you mean July 3rd, right?
Mhm.
Yep, yep.
I probably wouldn't be available. The 3rd and 4th, I have 2 different picnics I'm supposed to be going to. But you could go ahead and do it. I trust you guys. And I could just write up my 2 cents and send it off to you. If we want to do it on Monday or Tuesday. I just don't know when those gatherings are going to be.
Mhm. Do you want to try to schedule something Wednesday? Or just let Janet?
And it might turn out that if we scheduled it earlier or later, some might be available anyway, but early would be more likely to be available. But I think sometimes we just have to trust our colleagues. And if I sent to you guys my thoughts on it, you could incorporate them. You're not making any decisions necessarily,
We're not making any decisions.
No, we're
We're
just
chatting
discussing.
about it.
and I think it would be fine to go ahead without me if we have to. You just pick the time and I might even be able to make it. But I'll
Right now,
definitely send you my
right now, the
thoughts.
big thing is getting the meeting on Thursday scheduled
Right.
on my town government, because with all these days stuck out, it may be difficult. So give it a shot.
Yeah, if I do it.
The big thing is getting the Thursday meeting scheduled.
Yeah,
Well,
I
it's a
think
Zo-
that's
it's a Zoom meeting and Mary
Yeah.
isn't available, but she might pick up my message anyway, even though she's not there.
Well, send it also to Kristen. Maybe she can schedule it.
Okay. So on Monday, scheduling an 11 a.m. Zoom meeting on Thursday, the 6th, and then scheduling a site visit meeting on Monday, July 3rd. And what time do you want to be at the board house? 10 o'clock or 11?
if we did 10 and this was a midday picnic, which I think it will be, or even an evening picnic.
10 might work.
It might work for you, Jan. You want to go,
That might work for
want
me.
it earlier? You want it,
Well, I don't know if everybody wants to get up and at 'em that early, so 10, let's say 10.
okay, so 10 o'clock, okay.
Yeah.
10 works well.
We want to
Okay,
be wide awake, so we don't want to be getting out of bed early for this.
What,
okay.
the one thing that he mentioned that, I know we're concerned about the access, but when he mentioned removing all the mechanical equipment to proceed with the foundation, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? How much mechanical equipment is that besides the furnace?
It's the furnace and the oil tank and the
And the thing
electrical
that beeps.
the electrical panel. There's not much else
Wow.
down there that's
So you'd have to remove all of this?
I guess, that's what he's saying.
Well, you gotta be able to
Yeah.
get at the foundation.
True, but is there oil in the oil tank?
Sure,
Well, they can,
well, they take that out.
they could
can-
take that
They
out.
can
So
drain
Yeah,
that.
They drain
we'd
it.
get some credit. Or the
Gary,
Well-
what
town would
about
get
the
some
hot
credit.
water heater? Is that down there?
It's deep,
Yeah,
it's-
Yeah, but that's not intended to be used in the future, so.
The
Yeah.
hot water heater?
yeah,
mm.
needs, it's, I don't think it's connected.
Yes, it's connected.
It's connected.
Wow.
It just sits there.
Well, yeah, because there's no water being used, so therefore it's not turned on, but it's connected and it has worked in the past. But it's 40 feet from any place you're gonna use water. It's a big
Mm.
waste of
Yeah.
energy. And
You
so
need-
therefore,
Need
It
on
needs-
demand, yeah.
we need, we
Yeah.
need something that's located out in the kitchen bathroom area.
Yeah.
And,
I have on demand and I
hmm?
love
Do
it.
you, do you want me to,
I have on demand. I like it.
I
how,
was-
how do you feel about, heat pumps?
I was intrigued by that because I've been thinking increasingly about those, based on our experience in the curatorial building. I have no idea what the kind of cost would be on it. But,
Mhm.
it would be an interesting, I'd be interested in seeing how we might do it in the house. Of course, you gotta get the insulation all done too to make that work well.
That's
But
right.
it has occurred to me already that heat pumps could be attractive there anyway. Even if you had the old system in there, you might still put a heat pump in a room somewhere so you could cool it in the summer and all that. I've been intrigued increasingly about heat pumps as a method to do things there.
Yeah, I would favor heat pumps
Yeah.
over reinstalling oil or whatever.
I can check with my brother to see what his opinion is of that.
That would be interesting to hear.
Mhm.
We've got a hot air, oil-fired hot air system there now. And, but a heat pump system it would be interesting to
Mhm.
see what that might be like.
Yeah, I'll give him a call and find out.
You know, when Viking, which is a local company, came to service the curatorial unit, he was, he said anytime we had a question, we should just ask, we should just contact him. And perhaps, since he does all the town work, according to Fred, when I spoke to Fred, we should ask his opinion also.
Yeah, I mean, we could give them a tour on the house and have them
Yeah.
make suggestions about what could be done there. I don't know. I don't want 14 heat pumps, but at the same time, I don't know what it would take to do it.
Well,
But-
I mean, I guess it is a small place. We keep forgetting that, I think,
With
because
low
we're-
ceilings, the low ceilings will hold the heat
Yeah.
down too.
because we're,
Sounds-
basically it's overwhelming what we need to consider.
So who
Okay,
would be-
so we
who-
will discuss this further on the 3rd.
Okay,
And I will send out whatever he sends me, I will send out to you. And I will also send out Dan Wolf's comments. Because I don't think I might have sent them to Barry, but I don't think I sent them to everybody.
Dan Wolf,
Yes,
I forgot who he is.
he is the president of Ross Associates.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Do you want to move to the other items on the agenda? Or do you want to,
Yeah.
does someone
let's
else
do it.
have Okay. Janet sent us minutes for June 9th. And I had a few suggestions, but I would like to just do that in person when we
Okay.
meet. Okay, if
And
that's
that
okay.
way, sure, and that way people have a little longer to read them. I just sent them out late last night.
Right,
so-
you were trying to be,
Minutes should be handled at the regular monthly meeting.
That's
anyway,
what I was wondering. Tim said they don't,
Just as a matter of course.
yeah,
okay.
anyway, there's several reasons we'll wait then.
Yeah.
And do you want to do it at the next meeting then, which would be,
Well, we need to talk about that.
All right.
So,
Oh.
so I guess now is a good time to do that. We would normally meet on Friday at 10 o'clock on July 14th. But we do have an invitation to the Bigelow Tavern on the 13th, which is the day before. And my thought was to accept the invitation, but combine that time with a meeting to have a regular meeting after or before. Just so that we don't have to meet 2 days in a row.
But that's in West Boylston. It's out of town.
Right.
I don't think, I mean,
Would you rather just meet 2 days in a row?
Well, June, are you suggesting, say, meeting at the town offices building, having a short meeting and then going to West Boylston?
We could do that.
That would work for me.
Because then we could carpool.
That's right. We could meet, they wouldn't want us until 10 o'clock. I could ask them to move it up maybe to 10:30. And then that would give us, if we met at 9, that's probably early enough. Would that work?
for our meeting?
So that on the 13th of July, we would have our regular meeting at 9 and leave at 10 to go to West Boylston. And, if someone doesn't really care about going, you don't have to go to West Boylston. I just think we need to see some other places and talk to people about what they've accomplished. Or we can meet 2 days in a row.
I actually like the idea of meeting early and then going, and then, like you said, just having it all in one day.
Yeah.
If we can.
I think so.
you're going to have to go through that hour with great dispatch to do very much business. We normally go 2 hours and no matter what we've got on our agenda. So it's really going to take a lot of discipline to do it in an hour.
Be good for us because we do ramble. We like that. We like doing it that way, but we,
Well,
it would be good discipline.
there's another alternative, which is to keep the 13th at the Bigelow Tavern as a site visit and meet and have a regular meeting the following week. I mean, I'm not opposed to going 2 days in a row. I was just trying to make it easier for everybody.
I like the idea of putting it off a week, but I don't know what people's vacation schedules are.
I'm open. That would be the 21st then, is that right?
That would be, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that. I think we might get
I
meetings
think we
out
have
because
something on the 24th.
if we're doing
might-
the if we're
Go
doing
ahead,
the
Lucy.
3rd, the 6th, the 13th, and the 14th, I think that would be too much. We'd be fighting. So maybe the 21st is a better bet.
Or could we do the site visit first and then have our meeting?
We could.
Well, that's the one that runs into the problem of your other event on. Oh, no, that isn't that date. I'm sorry.
So the site visit would be first to the Bigelow Tavern and then meet after.
Yeah.
That's okay with me. We could figure out some lunch thing.
Yeah,
uh, we could, let's see. We could probably meet at 19 Carter.
the trouble with that is that it's a public place and there is no private council and conference room or anything. So we, sometimes if you want to really talk turkey about stuff and not have everybody else join in.
Yeah, you could meet outside, but that depends on the weather. You can,
The other problem is setting the time of the meeting because you don't know what it's going to be.
oh, that's right.
Mm,
Okay, I'm going to propose that we meet the 3rd for the emergency meeting, the 6th, whenever Dan can do it, the 13th for the Bigelow Tavern, and the 21st for our regular meeting. Because I do think we don't know how much chatting we're really going to want to do around museums after we do the Bigelow Tavern. That might be enough right there for that one day. And so then move the next one down when we will by then have gathered more stuff that we want to talk about. That would be my proposal. And I think we should probably try to make a decision because we use up a lot of time just chatting about it otherwise.
I'll make it a second. I'll take your
Okay,
statement as a motion and I'll make a second.
all right. So 3rd, 6th,
So
14th.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 So we'll leave, we'll meet, what time do we want to leave? We can still, going to the tavern, we can still carpool. That would probably be an easier way, at least 2 cars, but that would work. What time do we want to be there at the tavern?
Well, they said 10 o'clock. So
Okay.
we would need to leave about 9:30.
9:30. Okay. And we could meet down where? At the Bullard House?
We should probably meet at the town offices, I guess.
Okay. And then we can
There's more parking there.
Yep. Okay. Works.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have to, if we're carpooling, do I have to make that meeting for 9:30?
Oh, to meet.
My answer to that would be no.
No, okay.
So 10 is when we meet at the town office.
Tavern.
Okay.
No. We're gonna
At-
meet at 9:30 to
Okay,
drive to West Boylston for 10 o'clock.
all right. That's what
But
I.
the-
had thought.
We're gonna set our site visit time as 10 o'clock in West Boylston.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to suggest to make it, well, I don't know if it'll be easier for me or not, but I'm going to suggest 11 o'clock to Dan today.
Yeah.
If he can get back to me. Well, it could be another emergency meeting if it's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I'd set it for that time unless you get a reply back from him quickly.
Okay.
I'd set it for that time and put it on the thing. Then if it has to be changed, even if it's changed late, that's an emergency change and, but you did put it in for 11. I think that's fine.
Okay. So on our agenda, we need to vote to pay the Ross Associates invoice. It's $2,200.
I so move.
Second,
Okay, hang on. This
All
is
the-
where I need to be writing stuff down. Who made the motion? June,
I did.
Barry?
oh,
June made the motion or Barry?
no, Barry did.
Oh,
I
Barry made
asked.
the Okay. And tell me what the motion is, Barry.
To pay the bill to Ross Associates for $2,200.
Thank you.
So all those in
think-
favor?
I think somebody seconded it, but
Was there a
Yeah.
second?
Ellie
Ellie
did.
Ellie. It's the Barry and Ellie team. I like that. It's easier for me to remember who's done it. For 2,200, okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Unanimously approved.
Right.
So one of the action items was at our
before-
last meeting.
wait a
Go
minute.
ahead. Go ahead.
While we're on bills, I want to approve 2 bills for, from the budget money for archival supplies. Totaling
know,
less than the $600.
Yeah. Well,
We need to vote that.
we actually did vote that,
We
but it's not reflected in the minutes. At least according to my notes.
We did approve the expenditure, that's correct.
We approved now let me just see what I put in here.
But we didn't know how much it was gonna be, and we didn't have the bills.
Well, I think the wording was the remainder of our budget could be expended. But the two bills, I suppose technically. Well,
No, I can't find my minutes. What did I do with them?
they've already been paid.
Oh, geez, what did I do with those? I wanted those. Oh, the trouble is they're probably on my computer and I don't want to shut off
Well, I will tell you that my,
tell me what you want. What I put in there was the money that was left. And I actually took it off of what I thought like last night I did a lot of listening to the tapes, which I don't usually have to do anymore, but I did. And I thought I was writing down word for word each time what the motions were. Now, and I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, dang it all.
I know we voted to approve that expenditure.
We did, the one that Edie ordered.
I just was gonna post a vote to approve the warrants that we paid them on, that's all.
So why don't you tell me what you want me to write for the motion, and then we'll put that. Not funny.
I would say that June feels a motion is not necessary.
Okay.
they've been paid.
Oh, I bet you it's on my I bet it's on my printer. Hang on one sec.
Well, I'm gonna go.
So Barry,
forward.
while waiting for Janet to get back, I'd like to interject something, if you don't mind, kind of on the side. If you are interested in seeing some of the things that Mr. Crackart had left behind, the young couple that purchased the property are there right now, and they're actually going through some of the things. And they've commented that they've got some pictures that might be of interest, and some documents that might be of interest to the Historical Society. So they're kind of
Sure.
holding off on it.
All right,
I can give you their phone number if you'd like to contact them.
okay,
I'll do that offline though.
okay.
I have found it.
Are you looking at your minutes?
Yes, I am. I'm just taking a minute to find them. Parking. Oh no, these are the wrong. I'm sorry, guys. I was up too late trying to do this, and now I don't have it. If I shut off my computer, I can download it, but it's then I have to get back in here. Can I do that?
Yeah, Your
Don't
minutes,
worry
your
about it.
minutes don't say that we had a motion to pay, but I think that we did.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Because I,
But
Thanks
if,
for
if,
the,
if it doesn't, if it
archival
doesn't show
stuff.
up in the recording, then we didn't,
are you talking about the archival stuff?
yeah.
Yeah,
I move we pay the archival bills.
I will
Put a
take
vote in
care of
this
that.
meeting and it'll take care of it.
I will take care of it, and I will try to figure out why it's not in there, because
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Okay, one of,
Mary, ask
one
you
of the-
one more time to speak it, so that, because we did so much conversation, I want to make sure I got it right.
Barry moved to pay the archival supply bills from the budget.
Sorry about all that delay.
Okay.
Don't work late at night,
I
that's.
wanted to go through the few things that we'd agreed to do the last time we met on June 9th. One was for me to set a date, or to try to get a date for us to go to the tavern. And we've already discussed that, and we have a way to go forward with that. Now I can't tell you because I didn't have time to make a little summary. There were two other items that I was supposed to work on. One of them was Barry's, and that was the April 14th minutes. The other one was to go forward with inviting Al Smith to meet with us. But I want to have those photographs from Barry before I do that. So
Yeah,
I'm waiting on you, Barry.
I've actually been digging those out.
Good,
So
Thank
I'll
you.
I'll try to get them scanned and send them to you.
okay, that would be great. Once we have them, then maybe on the 3rd or the 6th, we can decide when you would like to meet with him. I think that was all the action items that I was responsible for. Thanks. Oh, no, there's one more. I spoke to Walter Bickford, asked him if he would talk to Bud Howarth about the hop house and the fact that it needs to be stabilized. Walter did that. He created some enthusiasm in Bud for stabilizing the building. Walter himself went there yesterday actually, and cleared brush and trimmed some trees that were invasive to the building.
Good.
So I've said to Walter, when Bud needs, to be encouraged and to do it at his own pace. But when the time is right, we would like to have Walter and maybe Bud do a little program for us with photos. And I offered Marty to help put photos together for them. And Walter was very receptive to doing all of that. So I think it will take some time, but I've done what I can to move that forward.
June, I think I had a chance to talk to him probably before you did, and he was very excited. Walter loves that kind of work. So good for you for getting it structured,
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
What was the significance of the barn? I remember there's something in the minutes, but I don't remember what it was.
That's a different topic. The hop house.
It was a hop house,
Hop
but it
house.
is, so a lot of people call it the hop barn, I've noticed, but
Oh, they do? Yeah.
yeah. And the significance is that It's really the only, almost, except for Ellie's hop patch that keeps growing back. It's about the only evidence in town that we have of the fact that people were growing hops. And I don't know if we know how many, whether it was very prevalent, Barry, I don't know if you know, or if it was just
It was a significant crop for a
a
time in the
significant
19th,
crop. And for
first
that,
half
to
of the
be
19th
only-
century.
now the only evidence, historical evidence that we have left is the hop house and some hops. You know,
Well, hop houses are rare, just like the Hearst house.
yeah.
And if we
Oh,
can
even
keep,
more so.
and even more
right.
so, that's right.
Yeah, and it's designed for drying the hops. So they hang them up in there and they dry them. And it has spaces between the boards and the floors and stuff, so to allow air to go through. And it's also designed so they could, run a fire down below and heat and put some heat in it to dry it and so forth. It's but it has structural details that are unusual, that are designed to make it that make it a hop house as opposed to some other kind of a building.
Right.
Janet, I think in one of your barns at the farm, there were, I remember you told me about some partitions or some spaces that might have been used in the same way
Mhm.
that the
You
hop
know,
house.
And where we might have talked about it too is that in Harvard, in the I forget which building it is, but there's some that where they were drying herbs. The Shakers were drying herbs, and there's a little Shaker herb barn that has that very same arrangement. It has the heat element downstairs, and then it has the slats instead of floors upstairs. But the slats are very close together, so people could still walk on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a neat place. You know, that I know I'm digressing a tiny bit here, but that would be a great place for us to go, to the Shaker Village in Harvard. Some of the buildings are accessible, and I can get a key for that little building that I just talked to you about. So that'd be another
That
good.
would be terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Walter would like to go too.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I've covered all the promises. Do you want to say anything about, I mean, Dan didn't get to the timeline for the grant and how he felt that would mesh with the master planning. Do you want to say anything more about that?
Sure. The main, whoops, is somebody else? The main point I wanted to make here is that if we have a definite agreement from Dan that he would be able to do the architect's work for something, a low enough cost that we don't have to put it out to bid, then we're in really good shape with our calendar here, because most of January through even June of this year was to be spent hiring an architect, putting out bids and so forth. And we didn't, as far as I know, from what you're saying, it's a definite thing that he's going to be able to do the work for a low enough price that we won't have to bid on it, because we're not doing any bids here.
The
So
threshold, well,
and
we're,
if you feel
this
you've
is
got enough-
master, yeah. Well,
And
first of
then-
all, we're still in master planning. And
Right.
that's a separate bucket that can't exceed 15,000. But that is not part of the 30,000 threshold that we would need to observe for his actual design work.
Yes. So do we have a firm commitment from him that he can do it for 30,000 or less?
Not on paper.
Okay, because that's the only thing that could snag the whole thing up, is that if in the end we did have to put it out for bid, might be difficult to meet the deadlines for the grant, which I'm not saying is the end of the world, but that's something just to keep in mind if we can't get a written commitment.
Well, maybe that's a question for Kristen, because she's our procurement officer. And if I put it to her, I think I already have told her that it's his expectation that 30K he can not go, he won't need to exceed 30K.
Mhm.
But maybe I need to ask her, what if something happens? And would there be time to put that out to bid?
Well, the next thing that we have to do, say, starting now, you're starting in June and July, is to begin planning. This is leaving the architecture thing right out of it, assuming that that's taken care of. The next thing comes in June-ish. Begin planning the work with the architect, doing the actual planning, and begin to plan the store. I put this one in because this is where they haven't given us any help until 2024. We don't get their advice on the timeline. So this is a timeline that we made up. And this one, the next thing is to begin to plan the storyline, the interpretation, room use, room design, syncing it with the town collection strengths to inform architectural decisions, including accessibility. So the planning should begin about now for exactly how we're going to go about using that building and what we want it to look like. And then October through December, they will, in October, they will issue a grant invitation to us to apply for it. And then we begin working on writing the grant. And then, I mean, we can begin now if we want, but, and then that goes through into January 24. And I sent this to everybody, so I don't need to read the whole thing to you. But we haven't put bids out for an architect because we've been unable to know for sure that we need to. But if we do need to, we need to do it right away. So I think a conversation with Tristan is kind of important to have. Make sure we're not sticking our necks out here.
Okay.
I don't mind having that if you want me to, but I don't mind if, as a person keeping an eye on the grant, but if you want to do it, that's maybe more appropriate. I don't know.
I'm uncertain about some of this. The thing that you're talking about for the grant is the architectural work for whatever work is included in the grant project.
Right.
Not necessarily the entire project.
Well, the architect, they stopped mentioning the architect very much. In early July, architects prepare bid level construction documents. Architects construct. So I guess he has to put together or make sure that's available, the construction documents. And after that, it doesn't say anything about the architect's involvement, but I don't know if that's an ongoing thing that they have to kind of keep an eye on what the builder's doing.
Well, that's a normal architectural service.
Yeah. So
it's for the
still,
project. It's for the project that you're getting the grant to go with.
Yeah.
We have no concept at this time of having the entire deal of the whole house as one job.
Right.
We're
Well,
looking at
in
the
relation, you mean in relation to the grant?
Yes,
Yeah. I mean, yes.
I'm talking, I mean, we've got a plan to do the foundation work right now.
Right.
And that's the stuff that's being developed is the stuff for the foundation work.
Right.
And it may be necessary to separate some of his work out of the master planning for that. I don't know. But the point is that whatever we put in for a grant to the state is going to be for a limited project.
Right. That's right.
Just part of what we
That's
need.
right.
Therefore, it's the architectural costs related to that project.
Yeah,
But they-
I'm not sure that we would be allowed to divide up among,
You can't
It-
do, yeah, you
you know.
can't do bid splitting.
they can pay for some of it, but I think they can pay for a portion of it. I mean, you're going to, obviously.
They don't pay
But
for
I'm not
architectural
sure if you
services.
can say that we don't have to put out bids because we can divide the work of the architect into chunks. I don't think the bidding, I think the bidding is what the entirety of the architect's work will look like. And if it's going to be over 30,000, then we do have to put out bids.
No, well, yes, that's right, but.
Right.
But the grant doesn't have, the grant won't pay for him. Remember?
The grant.
Yeah,
doesn't pay the
right. Well, that's
architect.
true too. That's true too. The grant doesn't pay for them anyway, but
That's
that
why
would
we.
be true of these other things. Yeah,
Yeah, we stood on our heads trying to change that CPA article.
yeah.
So that we could have money free.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I was kind of slipping right by that, wasn't I? That we don't use the grant money for architects.
No,
Okay.
we can't, that we're prohibited from doing that.
But that doesn't mean that there's not a rule that says, we have to talk to Kristen, that says we have to put out bids if we're going to hire this guy. That's not a grant thing, I don't think, isn't that?
We don't, no, it doesn't have anything to do with the grant.
Yeah.
They just require us to,
So we'd be in trouble with the state, but not with the grant. If we didn't put
That's
out
right.
bids when we were supposed to.
that's right. That's
Okay,
right.
That's right.
okay, good. Well, I don't want to get in trouble with the state either, but that's just good for us to remember that the grant
Yeah,
isn't.
well, she's on it for procurement. She won't, if I keep giving her all that we're doing, she won't let us get in trouble.
So will you talk to her then and just say we have no firm commit, we have nothing in writing?
Yeah,
That he
I
won't
will.
go over 30,000? Great, perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, to take you on that wild goose chase, but it helped me to figure out exactly what's going on with that.
Yep. Okay. Anything else with the grant? Is there something we can do right now?
Oh. Well, yeah, you have your sheet here, so you can look at that, the thing I just sent out last night. The early part really is all about obtaining and working with an architect.
Okay,
But they won't pay for it, but they still require us to do all that.
that's right.
Yeah. And so I do think I think we are, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I think we are moving into the design and the house planning. It's like we were building our own little house, and you got to figure out how you want it to look and what you want to do with it. And I think we should begin to move into that phase.
Okay.
I can think about how we might want to do that, because that's
Well, it
my
does,
house, my
it does
conservative.
affect our tracking with Dan. Because we are going to meet with him presumably on the 6th. So it's that part sort of goes together, I guess, because our entrances
Mhm.
inform the function of those
Mhm.
spaces. Yeah.
So that, and I might put, I could write a few questions that I went through this with one of the buildings at Sturbridge Village, where we completely changed its purpose. And I can kind of remember some of the questions that we had to ask and some of the tasks that we had to accomplish in order to really design what we wanted and to figure out what uses we wanted.
Mhm.
Maybe just jot down a few questions. And
That would
thoughts.
be good. Yeah, definitely. So our last item on the agenda was to just pull together what we've done with social media. Do you want to talk to that, Lucy?
Yeah, actually I do. I've gotten access to the website and I've started uploading some things. I've spent a fair amount of time getting acclimated to
Uh-oh, you're
how
cutting
the
off.
Froze.
website works and what we can do with it. And there's a few things, and I've uploaded your blog, the PDF file. I need to talk to the support group to see. Right now, I uploaded the PDF file, and you have to click on it to open it, but I want it to open up automatically. So I'm going to talk to them about that. And I've got a couple things in there that, like I added to the mission statement, the Bullard House vision statement to the website that I think is pertinent to making what we're doing more public. Then I have like the collection policy. What I want to do is to kind of redesign it a little bit, add some pictures of the website or to the website of the house in its various stages, and maybe put the curatorial building and possibly put something about, more, about the different phases that the house has gone through. So I need some access to, maybe Barry, you could help me with some pictures for that.
Mhm.
That you would think, and I need to take a look, talk to Marty, I guess, to see if I can get some more pictures from him too, because I'd like to do that so that it rotated a little bit more.
I can sit down with you with my
More than just a
laptop and
picture.
just run through
But
a whole
also
bunch
I'd
of.
like to know that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic. So we can set up a time for that if you'd like. What I'd like to do too is to, make sure that all the information is there. Like what more do you want in there? I know, like, I don't want to have to compete with the Historical Society, but I think that a lot of information should be about the plan and how it's progressing. I want to put something in there about Title V now that we have that information.
You know, whoops,
And report the Ross report. And just go ahead, Janet, you had a question?
oh, you know what I was going to say? One of the ways that I think about this and about your role in it is that all of us will do writing for this, because, like, for example, you shouldn't have to sit down and do a ton of research on the history of the Bullard House in order for you to write up something to put in. You go to Barry because he can do it off the top of his head, or you go to somebody else who has been more involved with us. And so, because I see, and you'll probably get, so that there's things that you learn about that
No,
you.
that's what I do.
Yeah, but yeah, so I just want to make sure that you don't have to generate all this. You just have to know how to get it out there mechanically, I mean, electronically for us, and then write the way we do. When it's something you feel you have some expertise on, you write on it. Otherwise, you go to Barry and say, Barry, I need an overview of the history of the house, and Barry writes it, that's how I see it. I don't know if people's.
Janet, I can find a lot of that information because I do have access to that information too.
Yeah.
So I don't mind writing. Actually, I think I write pretty well. But nonetheless, of course, I will go to people to get information, because that is what you do when you're writing something. You don't just kind of pull it out of your hat. You talk to people who have.
We all have different
Yeah,
expertise.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that I can talk to. Barry, I can talk to June, I can talk to you. There's a lot of different things, but the ideas, and if someone wants to write something, of course that's an option that we all have, is to write on it. But doing research is actually very interesting for me.
Oh, good. That's nice.
To do. And I think that I think if you're going to be working on the website, you have to have that information. You have to have that background. And actually, one of the things that I've done, just as kind of an aside, is gone to different websites for different historical commissions to look at what they have in there. It's actually very interesting. There's a lot of ideas that I can get from that to include in this. And, that's what you do. You do your research.
Yeah.
But
you can make assignments to other people. Feel comfortable making assignments.
I have no problem with that.
So you don't get yourself too swamped.
No problem with that.
Yeah, good.
So I'd like to get going on as soon as possible and make it something that's worthwhile. And I'd love to put in some of those pictures that Dan was showing, if that's okay with you. Like what the plans are, what the possibilities are for the site itself.
I'm not sure about that part.
Okay.
You don't want to put things that are in process on there, because it will impress people with things that they'll remember wrong later.
Yeah, I think those documents are the new ones will be in our Dropbox, and those are for the team.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think we want to put a pile of that stuff out for the general public. I don't mean to say that it's a secret, but the point is that it just, I don't see it as germane for the website.
Yeah,
the other thing to keep in mind
afraid.
is that we need to put stuff in about the demolition delay bylaw and those things into this, onto the thing. because those are official functions of the Historical Commission. As far as histories of houses and that kind of stuff, I'd rather let that go on the Historical Society website than the commissions, because the commission is, I want to keep this into the official work of the commission. As in terms of what goes on the town website.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, one thing that has,
And those are some of the things that I have been looking at, and, you know, demolition is already on my list.
Yeah,
The, you know, the vision statement, I think, is important for the commission.
yeah,
Should be
that's all
there.
right.
I think that the, you know, some of the plans should be out there. Maybe not, you know, like we can pick and choose which ones we want in there, but the plan, the overview of the plan should at least be on there, the collection policy. And those are some of the things that I've already, you know, isolated as being part of what the commission should be reporting on. So
Well,
yes,
people-
so those are all.
Lucy,
I think it's important that we say something about master planning,
Mhm.
but I don't. And actually, I've done that in a couple of places, but we need to do it again.
Yeah,
And we have our flow chart to help you give people those categories.
yeah, and
Being more detailed than that maybe isn't.
see, I
Is that
don't want to
a
be
good
too
thing?
detailed. I agree with you on that, June. I don't want to be too detailed because it's too long. And what I was thinking of doing was breaking it up into separate pieces, you know, so it wasn't, because it's fairly
It's big.
significantly large, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's big.
I don't think that it would be a good idea to put it out that way, you know, in that.
Yeah, they
Well,
don't.
that's
Yeah,
something that
in that-
changes
I
all
think
the
it's about
time.
5 pages.
Yeah.
And it does, but you could break it up. You could break it up into individual pieces, and that's
The
something that
big-
would be out there for review.
The big thing that you want to put up there is that we're in the planning process, and some of the things that are covered in the planning process are this, and this. And not tell them what the process, what the conclusions of it is, or any of that, because that's a changing target all the time. And you'll just be stuck running into it all the time to fix this and change the last thing you said. So, but the idea of the subjects that are covered in it and the kinds of things that are considered, those are the things that should be up there in regard to.
you know, if I can just jump in for a second, one of the things that has helped me a lot, and it doesn't help June very much or very, very much, but is that I tend to never put anything out publicly unless I've had, and I usually run to June, I've had her vet it, only because she has been doing this her whole life practically. And I feel as though if there's anything that isn't quite the way we want to present ourselves to the public, then at that time or whatever, she'll pick it up. And Barry, I think with those areas that he has expertise is the same way. And I don't consider, I mean, I worked in a museum, I've done a lot with history, I've taught history, but I don't consider myself the same expert in what, have the expertise in what we're doing here. Now, everybody's different, but my rule of thumb is always show it to one of the other really experienced people before I put it out. And I don't know, that may not appeal to you. Lucy, that may not appeal to you. That might be not the way that you work, but it's one way of
No,
not.
that is the way that I work, Janet. That is the way that I work before I put it
Okay. Oh,
out
good.
there. You know, what I put out there already is something that's already there, but I've just uploaded a little bit. I think the vision statement
right.
is partially there. No, my intention is to put together a plan, and that's why I want to talk about it. I put together a plan of how it's going to look and the content that's going to be there. And that's not something I'm going to do on my own.
Right.
That's something that I want to review. And I was going to ask you if you could put that on the next meeting, you know, put that as an agenda item on the next meeting to review some of these things so that we can go through it, because, you know, that's what we are. We are a group. And, you know, one of the things that I've always learned is there are no I in team, right?
Yeah,
So everybody gets to look at this because it is the commission. It's our view of what's going out there. It's our view of what we want to present as the commission. So that's absolutely, you're right, Janet.
good, good.
I would never put something out there that had not been run by you all. So, you know, just be aware. I mean, but there are some very minor things that are up there right now that are very easy to put up. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what I want to do is and one of the reasons that I haven't put anything in about the Title V is because I haven't written it yet, and I haven't written it yet because I didn't have all the information, and whatever I put together has to be run by you. It has to be approved. And the
I don't,
same thing with the Ross
I
report.
don't know what we put up about the Title V, except that we've had a satisfactory inspection done.
Hmm.
We don't need to put more in it about
That's
that.
it.
That's all.
And pictures.
Yeah.
We want to put some pictures in there. But you're right, but I want to make sure that everyone
Yeah.
is in agreement with, and that's what's going on. And even, you know, like the demolition policy, I can pull that from the,
town
you know, from
bylaw.
your records, because that's there. And I've already noticed that. And the collection policy, I don't know if you need to review that anymore, but I'd like to put that out there so people know what it is.
Well, the
that we're
collection
looking
policy is still is not all
Yeah.
written yet.
We're
but
gonna
That's one of
start
the
to,
things we're trying to get done this
Okay.
summer.
All right, but that's something that I will put up. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do, but you know, that's my policy. That's how I work. I mean, you know, you
That's
don't just
fine.
go ahead and do everything on your own. You know,
Well,
it's an
that's-
agreement, it's a
yeah.
commission. That's how
And
I
it's,
work.
I think of it as being a good idea mainly as a relief to you because you could get absolutely drowned trying to keep up with everything all by yourself
Oh, yeah.
as just without any input and somebody else taking over and saying, well, I'll write that piece for you because,
Oh no, it's the input from the commission, from everyone.
yeah. So that's good. That's good. Just checking, making sure we're all on the
No,
same page.
no, that's my policy.
You
We're on
know,
the same page with that one, June.
Good.
Or,
might,
Janet.
we might put something on the commission webpage to invite people. I mean, to, you know, to feel free to ask us questions,
Mhm.
or even if they have something in particular to tell me, and we could put it on the agenda for a meeting. I mean, something to be more inclusive with the public. That might be
Yep.
appropriate.
Be nice.
Exactly. And again, that's one of the things that I have noticed too. All the other websites for the commissions have that. And that's on my list of things, and it would go
Okay.
directly to you. So I've been doing a fair amount of homework on this and reviewing other places and you know, other sites. So I've got a good feel for it.
Good.
You know,
Thank
and we
you.
do-
Yeah. Thank you so much for,
There was one
taking
thing that I
this
was gonna
on.
mention, oh, yes. Oh, and I'm having fun with this. So Janet, don't worry about this. If I'm not having fun, believe me, you'll be able to tell.
Good.
Other thing
Um,
too is at one of our meetings, I had mentioned to someone about talking to, you know, talking to, was it Ellie Eller Saws about adding to the, you know, when we sent out the census papers. I did talk to Eleanor, not Eleanor, sorry, Eloise, and got her okay to put a page in there from the commission that would include, you know, possibly having something for the Historical Society also, like a membership form for the Historical Society. So that's something else for us to think about. And,
Yeah.
you know, I could write some things up for that, but again, that's up for review.
But that's
Yeah.
not the commission.
well,
It is the commission. It is the commission as a department. It is.
it would be,
Not membership in the Historical Society.
oh,
That's not the commission.
Well, that's not the commission. You're right. But actually, and Eloise had said that I guess Elaine Wickstrom had talked to her about doing the same thing a while ago.
yes. Yep.
So I think I'd just, you know, like to follow up on that and make sure that we do get something on there.
Yeah.
But the commission, the society is that not kind of a subsidiary of the commission?
No,
It's an independent organization which supports the commission and assists the commission on all kinds of things. But it's a separate organization, and the town website says that we can't advertise it per se on the town website. And I don't know why, but that's the way it is. So therefore, that stuff goes on the commission's website, that's all.
yeah,
I mean,
Okay.
on the society, on the
Society's
society.
website. But the society can advertise what the commission is doing.
Yes,
yes,
Yeah.
because it's private. There's a
Yeah.
lot to be said for being private and not part of the government.
well, it's like all of the,
Yeah,
the difficulties
But
of
anyway, so-
procurement
so-
and all that. The society is not necessarily bound by those things.
Well, actually, you know what? I was looking through some of the bylaws, and the commission can actually accept contributions on that chapter 40, section 8.
Yes.
We can accept, but we can't solicit.
You can accept
Yes. Oh,
contributions.
we can solicit contributions to the commission that go in the commission's donation account, which exists in the town treasury.
Kristen told me we couldn't
Yeah,
solicit donations.
And our former police chief, I think, had made the point that you're not, I don't know if, he was
Well, check
correct,
the
that we
bylaws.
weren't allowed to solicit contributions.
Because at a meeting, I said to Kristen, well, we have a donations account.
Yeah,
And she said, yes, but you cannot solicit donations.
If somebody just walks up and hands it to you, that's okay, but you can't ask, you can't put it out.
Yeah.
How would,
So anyways, that's interesting.
So that's
well,
at least.
my thought was, if they don't know there's an account, what, somehow they need to know there's an account that they could.
So you could always put down donations accepted. That's
Yeah,
but
that's
the
true.
thing is,
okay.
the thing is that the donation account is public money, and you have to follow all the public money rules and how you expend it and all of that kind of stuff. If the society's got money, they don't have to go by all of those rules.
Yeah.
And so therefore, in some ways, I kind of like having donations go there more, but we can accept donations, and we do, and we have an account for it. There's still probably $600 in it or thereabout.
But would you agree, Barry, that we can't ask for them publicly? We can't put it at the bottom of our pages that we send out?
I would like to know what the legal basis is for that statement.
Would Galvin, if I wrote to Galvin's office, could they tell me that?
No, I don't think that would be appropriate. You should ask
Who
Kristen.
would you ask?
Doesn't-
Who would you
Doesn't
ask?
I
work
would
for us
go-
anymore.
You know what you want to do, Janet, is to go to that. If you look on our website, I think it's like chapter 40,
Section 8D.
page 8, and it's all spread. Thank you. That's it. So it's all there, and that's pretty much explains a lot of what we're talking about now, and we can make sure that we've got the right.
But it doesn't
Information.
include anything about solicitation, and that's why I want to go talk to the town administrator about that and find out
Yeah.
what her basis for what she's saying on that is.
Yeah.
Well, and if
Okay.
I hadn't heard it from another town, well, a town official, a police chief, but yeah, he's an official. If I hadn't heard it from him, I would wonder, but now, two people have said the same thing independently, but
Well,
we
Chief
should still
Galvin,
find out. We should still find out for sure.
Chief
So-
Galvin,
Can we-
Chief Galvin's comments would have had to do with the website per se,
that's right. That's right. Not,
because he was
That's what we're
handling,
talking about.
he
I mean,
was
we're
handling the website.
Yeah,
But I don't know what the basis for that statement is, and I need to find out from Kristen why she would say that and
yes,
what limitations we actually are under.
yes. Can you do that, Barry? That would be great.
Yeah, I want to find out what she's got in her head
Yeah.
about that.
yeah. Chief Galvin's comment
Janet,
about,
your hand up.
so- Chief Galvin's comment about, actual financial transactions was focused on the society's community webpage.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the commission. That,
Okay.
I mean, that was my conversation with him.
Yeah.
It
And
wasn't,
that's one of the reasons why we're having a separate website for the society and all that, getting the
Yeah.
society out of the town
Yeah.
website. Except as a link.
okay,
We'll keep links between the two, but
all right. Okay, so I think we've covered the agenda, and we could entertain a motion to adjourn unless someone has something pressing.
Been an interesting meeting.
I will
Yes.
make a motion if nobody else has anything else to say, because once you make this a motion, you have to go with it. The
We
motion.
have to stop recording.
I will
that's
make
right.
a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, all those in
Second the
favor?
motion.
all right,
Aye.
Bye.
Unanimously approved. Thanks, Barry, for all your trouble early on this morning.
just the way it goes.